It's time to release the Kraken. Hi, Bryan here for your astrology report for the full moon in Scorpio that occurs on May 18th. First, really quick though, if you would like to follow my work, please hit the subscribe button below and then hit the notification bell, so that will ensure that YouTube will notify you when I release new content. This full moon in Scorpio happens May 18th at 2:10 p.m. Pacific time. Full moons are points of culmination for whatever you started in the new moon period, which occurred a couple weeks prior, May 4th. The new moon was in Taurus. And if you watched my previous video, it was very much about, tapping into ancient, earthy Taurus wisdom and trying to keep yourself in the present moment, keep yourself very grounded. So whatever seeds were planted, and planting seeds is actually a good metaphor for Taurus because it is related to gardening on one level. But whatever seeds were planted back then around May 4th, they are starting now to bloom and come into full manifestation. So full moons around now, right around May 18th and a couple days after, it's a time for harvesting. Now, the introduction to this video was release the Kraken, and I used it in a very foreboding, dramatic voice. And it's actually a quite useful metaphor for this full moon. But before I get to that, let's understand the major theme here involved in this full moon story. And there is a major theme because Scorpio has two planets that are said to rule it, which means a planet that has a strong affinity to that sign. And those two planets are Pluto and Mars. So with both of Scorpio's rulers involved in this full moon story, this creates a big theme, which we'll get to in a moment. Also, we have the planet Venus in a conjunction with Uranus in the sky. And a conjunction basically just means they're next to each other in the sky. And this will play a significant role as well, because Venus and Uranus are both in the sign of Taurus. And Venus actually rules Taurus. So whenever a planet's in its own sign, it's effectively supercharged. And then we give it an extra lightning bolt of energy being next to Uranus, because Uranus is the god of earthquakes and lightning bolts. So whenever a planet contacts Uranus, it gets some extra juice as well. So let's jump in. Scorpio is a water sign, and all water signs are about our emotional world, our subjective reality. They are inwardly oriented. And Scorpio is about the stormier variety of emotions, charged emotions. That's because Scorpio people like to live life intensely, like to live life passionately. And there's also a probing quality about Scorpio because they like to dig underneath the surface of things psychologically. I actually like to use the archetype of the psychologist or the psychoanalyst for Scorpio because they have this ability to have and give very penetrating insights. So with this full moon, we are looking in the direction of charged emotion. Also, if you ask any police officer on the planet about crime during full moons, they'll say that crime actually goes way up because the moon itself is also linked to our emotional world. So during full moons, our emotions run a bit wild. So, of course, when that happens, crime goes up because, the crazy get crazier. We have Mars, one of the planets that rules Scorpio, just changed signs into Cancer a couple days ago. And Cancer is another water sign, again, about emotions. And Mars is the god of war. Mars, like Scorpio, likes to live life passionately. So passionate emotions, Cancer. Okay. But, Mars will be in Cancer for, about a month and a half now. So this will create a dynamic or a theme over the next coming days of emotions just being a bit more extreme, a bit more charged. Scorpio's other ruler, Pluto, is in a nice aspect to this moon, a sextile. And a sextile just means, their energies are exciting each other right now. They're mutually beneficial to one another. It's a good aspect to have. Now, Pluto is archetypally known as the god of hell. That's one of his nicknames. And of course, that can strike fear into the hearts of many. But when we look at what hell means, metaphorically speaking here, it's really just a metaphor for the unconscious mind, okay, and the subconscious mind as well, where we bury all our hurts, all our traumas, all the stinkers of life. So what we find here between Scorpio full moon, Mars being in Cancer and Pluto being in this aspect to the moon, is we find triggered emotions, okay? And we have Venus, the goddess of love. She's about relationships. They're next to Uranus, the disruptor, the god of earthquakes and lightning bolts. Now, the conventional astrological analysis of this is shake up in your relationships. And that can fit here because with all these stormy emotions, it's classic to see these play out in our close relationships because anyone who's really close to us, knows us very well and knows how to push our buttons, and our buttons are a bit touchier during this time. Okay, so just keep that in mind. And I'll talk about good ways of dealing with that constructively. But this is the major theme here. And this is why I started off this video with release the Kraken, because, the Kraken is this massive sea creature, this mythic monster that just is waiting to come to the surface to wreak havoc. So, the Kraken is a nice metaphor for our, suppressed emotions or repressed emotions, our pains, our hurts. And then the sea is a good metaphor for the sea of the unconscious, okay, or the subconscious mind. So the Kraken wants to come from the deep psyche and come out and wreak havoc in the world. Now, this is going to affect everybody a little bit differently, especially for folks in their own personal birth chart. If they have a predominance of planets in the later degrees of the fixed sign. So anywhere between 25 to 29 degrees of Scorpio, of course, of Taurus, of Leo, or Aquarius. Also, if they have a very watery birth chart, if they have a lot of any of the water signs, like Cancer, Pisces, or Scorpio, they will feel this full moon a lot more strongly than others. If you're not sure about your own birth chart, you can get them for free online. Just, Google free birth chart, plug in your birth information, and they'll show you where all the planets were. Or if you want something more thorough, I do offer birth chart readings, and you can find my website address in the show notes below. So there's one other planet involved in the story that I haven't mentioned yet, and that's the planet Mercury. And Mercury is actually right next to the Sun, which means it's also in an opposition to this full moon. So you have Mercury opposite the moon. Mercury is about our mind, basically, our cognitive functions, our communication, of course, but the subset of communication is really our thoughts, and underlying thoughts are perception. So at the core, of course, it's the planet of perception. And of course, how we perceive our reality will shape, a lot of our emotions as well. But I want to focus on thoughts here, because oppositions in astrology can create some tension. Okay, so here we have the planet of thoughts in this tension aspect with the moon in Scorpio, which is about charged emotions. Now, of course, our thoughts and our emotions are linked. Okay, whether they're positive or negative thoughts and emotions, they feed into each other. Okay, so if you're thinking happy thoughts, you're going to be thinking happy emotions. You're not going to be thinking happy thoughts while you're having negative emotions, unless they're forced. And conversely, if you're having negative thoughts, it'll be feeding into those negative emotions. Now, if we're going to have a little bit of a itchy trigger finger with our triggered emotions, okay, it's useful, if that does occur, okay, to not feed them thoughts, okay, because if you feed them negative thoughts, that kraken will just grow. It will get stronger, okay. So the best thing you can do is, if you notice yourself getting triggered during this time, is to just take a moment and really tap into that Taurus wisdom. We're circling back to Taurus here because the Mercury is next to the Sun in Taurus, opposite that moon. And Taurus wants to be in the body. Okay, it's a very present sign. So instead of feeding that kraken energy with your negativity and your negative thoughts, it's much more helpful to center your conscious awareness in your body and just stop thinking altogether. You know, Eckhart Tolle had a beautiful teaching about this. He actually called it the pain body, because when you have a triggered set of emotions, you'll actually feel it in your body. Okay, so much like his teachings, when you feel that kraken come out, stop what you're doing. Any external stimulus or people that are helping that emotion to manifest, remove yourself from that situation and find some quiet time. Stop thinking and just bring your conscious awareness into your body and just feel that emotion. Feel that stickiness wherever it is. Emotions manifest in different locations in the body depending on what the emotion is. And just sit with this pain, with this hurt, with an open-heartedness, and just feel it in the body and don't think. Just keep your awareness on it. And what you'll notice is the more you relax into this process, within minutes, maybe 3, 4, 5 minutes, no matter how charged this emotion is, it will start to dissipate. It will start to release. And this is the best way to handle this transit. And, I'm not trying to be doom and gloom here. It's like, oh, everybody's going to go crazy. Look out, watch your back. No, this is an opportunity, just like anything in life. And what's the opportunity? Well, it's to release our pain. You don't need it anymore. Okay. The garbage in the compost bin. Okay. It's time to start turning that into healthy fertilizer. And the way to do that is to release it. And during this time, I feel it's really good to just keep your awareness down there, sit with it with compassion, and over some minutes, it will dissolve. Okay, it will release. And that's what Pluto in Scorpio is really calling during this time, that, it's an opportunity for transformation. And that transformation occurs when you are no longer holding on to that old pain, that old story. So if the kraken comes out to play, don't feed it what it wants, which is your negativity. Okay. And as you sit with it, you'll notice that the kraken, gets bored and leaves. So this is a beautiful way of navigating this period of time. And instead of going into the extreme shadow side, which would be, moodiness, brooding, and in the worst case, like despair, if you really let yourself spiral, instead of doing that, turn it into a moment of healing and restoration and transformation. That's the high road for this full moon in Scorpio.